Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tombstone Tourist. Today, I'm at the Allegheny Cemetery in the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is one of the oldest and largest cemeteries in western Pennsylvania, and while there are several notable people resting here, today we're only going to be able to visit a few. This cemetery was established in 1844, and some of the oldest graves are of soldiers who fought in the French and Indian War. These soldiers were originally buried at Trinity Cathedral in downtown Pittsburgh, but were reinterred here shortly after the cemetery opened. Over the years, the cemetery has been expanded several times. Today, it's about 300 acres and is the final resting place of more than 124,000 people. In 1973, the historic Butler Street Gatehouse, where we're at right now, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And in 1980, the entire cemetery was listed on the National Register. This is an example of a historic rural cemetery. As I entered through the Butler Street gate, I was immediately greeted by some wonderful examples of classic cemetery art, some dating back well over 100 years. To me, these older monuments and memorials are a wonderful tribute to the people resting here. If you take time to read some of the inscriptions, you can get to know the people and something about the time that they lived in. These monuments show that life is more than just a date of birth and a date of death, separated by a dash. They tell the story of what happened in between. I spent several minutes driving and walking around admiring these stone monuments and memorials before arriving at the first grave that I wanted to visit. Most of us have heard way down upon the Suwannee River. Well, the first grave site that I wanted to visit here in Allegheny Cemetery is the man known as the father of American music, Stephen Foster. Stephen Foster was born on July 4th, 1826 in Lawrenceville, Pennsylvania. Stephen was a very good student, excelling in grammar, penmanship, math, Latin, and Greek. He also taught himself to play the clarinet, guitar, and piano. In the 1850s, Foster wrote many of his well-known songs. And while he never lived in the South, many of those songs had a Southern theme like Camptown Races, Suwannee River, and My Old Kentucky Home, which is the official state song of Kentucky. At the start of the Civil War, Foster moved to New York, and very little is known about this period of his life. He was living in a New York City hotel when on July the 10th, 1864, his friend and writing partner, George Cooper, found Foster lying in a pool of blood. He had a severe cut to his neck and was rushed to a hospital, where he died 3 days later on January the 13th, 1864. Many people have written about Stephen Foster over the years, and there have been several theories about what happened in that New York City hotel. Most accounts tend to point towards suicide. Stephen Foster, the man who is widely regarded as the father of American music, was only 31 years old when he was laid to rest here on this hillside next to his parents. From the grave of Stephen Foster, I continued my drive admiring more of the historic cemetery art. I eventually made my way to the newer section of the cemetery on the far east side. This section has more traditional headstones along with some flat markers.
I'm now in section 64 here at the Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to be visiting the gravesite of Carroll Cook. To college football fans, he's better known simply as Beano.
Beano was born Carroll Hoff Cook on September 1st, 1931 in Boston, Massachusetts. When he was about 7 years old, he and his family moved to Pittsburgh. And it was here in Pittsburgh that a neighbor started calling him Beano, which was a reference to him moving here from Beantown. The name stuck, and Carroll Cook became Beano. Beano graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 1954 and then served 2 years in the United States Army. After being discharged from the military, he returned to the University of Pittsburgh, where he served as the school's sports publicist from 1956 until 1966. In 1966, Beano became the media director for ABC Sports. He held that position until 1974, when he returned to Pittsburgh and took a job as the vice president of the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. He returned to the network in 1982 to serve as the in-studio commentator for the ABC College Football Scoreboard Show. He stayed with ABC until 1986, when he left to take a job with ESPN. It was at ESPN that he gained his greatest fame. He was a fixture on ESPN News and on ESPN Radio, along with the network's college football shows. Beano was called the Pope of college football due to his vast knowledge and love for the game. His quick wit, that was often laced with sarcasm, made him a favorite with the fans. While working for ESPN, he continued to live here in Pittsburgh. Then on the morning of October 11, 2012, Beano Cook died suddenly in his sleep at the age of 81. He was laid to rest here in Section 64 of the Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I'm in section 50 here at the Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh. We're going to walk up this hill and visit the final resting place of not only one of the greatest players of the Negro Leagues, but one of the greatest baseball players of all time, the great Josh Gibson.
Josh Gibson was born in Buena Vista, Georgia on December the 21st, 1911. In 1921, his family moved to Pittsburgh, where Josh attended a vocational school and studied to become an electrician. At 16, Josh took a job as an elevator operator at Gimbel's department store, and it was while at Gimbel's Josh got his first taste of organized baseball. He played third base for a semi-pro team sponsored by Gimbel's. This led to him being recruited by the Pittsburgh Crawfords, which was the top semi-pro team in the Pittsburgh area. While playing for the Crawfords, Josh captured the attention of a man named Cumberland Posey, who owned the Homestead Grays. The Grays were the top Negro League team in Pittsburgh, and on July the 31st, 1930, Josh Gibson made his Negro League debut. Josh played for the Grays in 1930 and 1931 before returning to the Crawfords, which had been elevated to full Negro League status in 1930. He played with the Crawfords from 1932 until 1936. Then in 1937, it was back to the Grays, where he stayed until 1939. After playing in Mexico for a couple of years, he returned to the Grays in 1942 and for the final time. He played for the Grays until he left the field for good in 1946. Josh Gibson is regarded as not only one of the greatest players in Negro League history, but also one of the greatest players in all of baseball. He was a 12-time Negro League All-Star, a 3-time Negro National League batting champion, and won the Negro League Championship in 1943 and 1944. These feats are even more remarkable when you consider that in 1943, Josh fell ill and was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He refused to have the tumor removed and lived for the rest of his life with severe headaches. Josh Gibson died at the age of 35 on January the 20th, 1947. He was laid to rest here in Allegheny Cemetery, and for almost 30 years, the grave of one of the greatest baseball players of all time was unmarked. Then in 1975, this simple granite stone was placed at his grave. In 1971, Satchel Paige became the first Negro League player to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The next year, Josh Gibson and Buck Leonard became the second and third Negro League players to take their place in the Howland Halls of Cooperstown. As I was recording this video, it was really great to see that Josh Gibson has not been forgotten. People still visit here. They leave balls, bats, and during my visit, there was even a Josh Gibson bobblehead. It's reassuring to know that one of the greatest baseball players of all time still lives in the heart of true baseball fans everywhere. Well, this is where I'm going to end this video. I hope you've enjoyed my visit to the graves of Stephen Foster, Beano Cook, and Josh Gibson here at the Allegheny Cemetery in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you did, be sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. For now, just remember, life's a journey. Take time and enjoy it. And I'll see you down the road. So long, everyone.